Welcome to the newsroom for September 9th, 2020. We have a few more police videos for you, and we're going to run the suicide prevention program again. This is Suicide Prevention Week. Hopefully we can help someone.
It begins National Suicide Prevention Week. This is a difficult topic, but really one we shouldn't ignore because suicide is the second leading cause of death among young people 14 to 24. So our education expert, Jennifer Brinker, is here this morning to talk with us about this very important issue. Thank you for being here this morning. What are some of the signs that parents should be watching out for?
There are some really obvious signs, like if your child is engaging in self-harm of any type, fixated on talking about death, but there are also a lot of subtle signs that parents should watch for. And that would include extreme changes in appearance, appetite, sleep habits, but also changes in friendships, or maybe your child withdrawing from people that they've typically been close to, a drop in grades, increase in drug and alcohol use. Those are all things. So really any significant changes for the worse, I think, are something that parents need to watch for.
And so if we see some of these, what do we do?
Well, communication is key. So that's the first step, is just talking with your child. And you know, a lot of people have this false notion that talking about depression and suicide plants that seed, that idea in your child's head. That's not the case. They need to know what your concerns are, and they need to know that you care about them and that you're worried.
What about people who say this, this might be attention-seeking behavior?
Sure, we hear that from people. And honestly, my take on that is, if your child is willing to go to those lengths and talk about these things or hurt themselves in order to get attention, they need attention, and not just from mom and dad or grandma and grandpa. They need attention from professionals. So you really have to seek professional help. And I would ask people to keep in mind the consequences for underreacting to this could be fatal. The consequences for overreacting are pretty much non-existent. So, I would dismiss that whole just getting attention notion.
That's a good point. You're assistant principal at Greenwood Middle School. What are you and other administrators doing from the school side of things?
Well, as always, teachers are trained every year to recognize those symptoms. We're trained in suicide prevention, but also schools are engaging in learning about SEL, or social and emotional learning, where from a very young age, we teach kids to not only recognize and acknowledge their feelings, but then also with some coping strategies to be able to get themselves regulated and at their baseline, or to know when to ask for help when they can't do that on their own. So it's ongoing, but we just try and keep a pulse on where the kids are at and make sure that we have resources available for kids to speak to someone.
All right. Hey, thank you very much for bringing this out in the light, something we need to talk about, parents need to know about. Jennifer Brinker, thanks as always.
Oh, yeah.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Chief of Operations Brian McDermott. I stand here before you saddened and angered that another child has lost their life to senseless gun violence in the city of Chicago. At this time, I'd like to offer my sincere condolences on behalf of the Chicago Police Department to the family of the victim. On today's date, at 5:55 p.m. at 47th and Union, 9th District officers responded to a call of a shot spotter hit, shots fired, and a person shot at 47th and Union. Our victim's vehicle was parked facing northbound on Union Avenue, with the offender's vehicle directly behind it. When the light turned green, the offender's vehicle immediately opened fire on the victim's vehicle. The victim's vehicle continued northbound on Union and crashed into a tree. The offender's vehicle conducted a U-turn and fled southbound on Union at a high rate of speed. Area 1 detectives are still on the scene, canvassing, looking for additional witnesses, attempting to locate private video, And at this time, we ask anybody with any information that can help us solve this crime to go to cpdtip.com. Open this up for questions.
How old is the victim?
The victim is 8 years old, female, black, 8 years old, was transported to Comer's Hospital, was pronounced at approximately 18-28 hours.
How many other people in that vehicle that were injured?
There was a total of 4 people in the vehicle. 2 others were shot, and 1 was injured from the vehicle crash.
Aside from the injury, was there another juvenile in the car at the time of the shooting?
No, that was the only juvenile in the car.
So is it safe to say that you believe at this point your investigation showed that this was a targeted crime of this particular vehicle? Obviously not the 8-year-old little girl. What do you know at this point? Since they waited strategically to shoot, that that bullet hit, was the child in the back of the car when that shot, those shots were fired?
I'm not sure which seat the child was in, but we do believe that occupants of that vehicle were targeted.
Did they fire any shots back at the suspect's vehicle that you know of?
Not that we're aware of.
Looking at the scene, there was a black SUV that crashed into the tree. Is that the victim's vehicle?
I believe that is the victim's vehicle.
Okay, and so then the victim's vehicle hit other cars that were in the area?
I think the victim's vehicle struck 1 car and then crashed into a tree.
Chief, what is the relationship of the little girl to the other occupants of the vehicle? Occupants?
I'm not sure what the relationship was to 2 of the people, but I believe the mother was in the car.
Was the mother also struck?
I think the mother was injured just from the crash. I don't believe she was struck by gunfire.
There was another shooting not long after that down at 83rd and Krieger. Do you have any reason to believe that's connected to what happened here?
No, we don't.
Where do you go from here?
Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
We try to stop the shootings. We're all, like I said before, we're all saddened and angered by this. You know, the Chicago Police Department has recovered over 7,000 guns this year. Our officers are getting shot and shot at a record pace. We're out there every single day doing our best to protect the citizens of the city, and that's what we're going to continue to do. Last question.
Did you have a make and model of the offending vehicle? Color?
We believe it was a black Dodge Charger.
Any idea of how many gunshots were fired?
Multiple shots. We don't have an exact number. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
You guys good? Right, 2 adults and a child. Right.
Let's begin with some breaking news this evening. Gunfire claims the life of another child on Chicago streets. An 8-year-old girl has died and 3 adults were wounded when someone opened fire on their car near 47th and Union. Now the hunt is on to find the suspects. And thank you for joining us. I'm Lourdes Duarte.
And I'm Ben Bradley. Micah is off tonight. We begin with that breaking news. Chicago police still on the scene of that shooting right now.
WGN's Patrick Elwood is live at 47th and Union with the latest. Patrick.
Lourdes and Ben, an active crime scene taking place as we come to you live at this 9 o'clock hour. 1 child dead, 3 adults were hurt in what happened here, as police say what did happen here was anything but random.
I stand here before you saddened and angered that another child has lost their life to senseless gun violence in the city of Chicago. At this time, I'd like to offer my sincere condolences on behalf of the Chicago Police Department to the family of the victim.
That is CPD Chief of Operations Brian McDermott just a short time ago. He says the trouble started when one vehicle, a Dodge Charger, pulled up behind another, which was a Subaru of some sort, at the corner of 47th and Union. When the light turned green, the shooting started. Inside, 3 adults, including a mother and her 8-year-old daughter, all shot in their backs. The adults are in critical condition at the University of Chicago. CPR was performed here at the scene, but that 8-year-old little girl died at Comer Children's. Her mother was hurt when the car crashed into a tree. ShotSpotter technology detected the gunfire right away, and police were on the scene within minutes and continue to be at this hour.
Area 1 detectives are still on the scene, canvassing, looking for additional witnesses, attempting to locate private video. And at this time, we ask anybody with any information that can help us solve this crime to go to cpdtip.com.
So this weekend, Superintendent David Brown assigned an extra 1,200 officers to work the weekend. 8,000 of the 12,000 officers on the department were working. All days off were canceled. Obviously, as witnessed what happened out here, if somebody is intent on pulling that trigger, you're not going to be able to stop them. What happened in terms of a motive? Why did this happen? We'll have an update coming up at 10. For now, live on the south side of the Canaryville neighborhood, Patrick Elwood, WGN News. Back to you guys in the studio.
Police say that the shooting happened around 12:30 this morning, and the victim was taken to a hospital and was listed in critical condition.
We believe that he was ambushed.
A man making an early morning food delivery attacked in the 600 block of Chestnut Hill Avenue.
We found a vehicle with the door open, the vehicle was running, and then on the sidewalk we found an adult male who we later found to be 39 years old, suffering from a gunshot wound to his head.
Police say someone lured him to this house.
We later learned that the house that he was supposedly delivering to was vacant. So we do believe in this case that someone called an order, placed an order to that location, and it was literally to get him there to basically attack him. We're not sure if the victim in this case was robbed, but we know he was shot.
This past Saturday, 3 people killed in Baltimore. A 28-year-old man found in the 3800 block of Brooklyn Avenue, stabbed in the neck and chest. Gunfire in the 2500 block of West Lexington Street. Police located a woman and a man, both suffering gunshot wounds. The woman shot in the head. She died. And in the 100 block of Payson Street, 2 more people found shot. One of the victims died. 2 others were located at a nearby hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police say the city has had 222 homicides so far this year, as compared to 239 the same time last year, and 486 non-fatal shootings compared to 557 the same time last year.
At this point, we believe at least 2 individuals are responsible for this incident.
The Waverly food delivery driver worked for a pizza restaurant not far from where he was shot.
Well, there's evidence that would suggest that there was more than one person involved with this, more than one suspect. I can't give the details for reason of case sensitivity, but we do believe it was more than one suspect. He was approached as he was getting out of his vehicle.
And while police believe that at least 2 suspects were involved, they don't have much more information, and they're hoping that they can get the public's help in trying to solve this crime and the others that happened over the Labor Day holiday. Reporting from Waverly, Barry Sims, WBAL-TV 11 News.
And we're following developments in the grand jury indictment of a Tulsa police officer expected today. We go live now to 2 Works for You's Tatiana Taylor at the courthouse with all the details for us this morning. Tatiana.
Well, good morning, Corey. So Thursday, the Oklahoma multi-county grand jury indicted Tulsa police officer Aaron Russell for the misdemeanor of reckless handling of a firearm. Now, this all happened around 1 a.m. March 21st. That night, Officer Russell responded to a call of a suspicious person inside a car near East 28th Street and the Broken Arrow Expressway. When he arrived, Officer Russell started talking to Michael Delaney, the man in the car. And that's when Officer Russell noticed a pistol, according to the Tulsa Police Department. Russell then asked Delaney to leave the car, and Delaney ignored, so Officer Russell tried to force him out. And that's when Delaney drove away, and Officer Russell fired his gun several times, shooting Delaney in his shoulder. Delaney was later caught and arrested for possession of a firearm, assault with a deadly weapon, 1 felony warrant, and 3 misdemeanor warrants. CPD says body cam footage shows the pistol was actually an air gun. The officer Russell was placed on administrative leave in March and will remain until the end of the case. Now, the DA's statement says Officer Russell has cooperated during this entire investigation. For more information, including the full statement from the DA's office, you can go online at kgrh.com. Live at the Tulsa County Courthouse, I'm Tatiana Taylor. 2 Works for You.
Video tonight as we walk you through a police shooting. A 22-year-old woman hit by gunfire after Phoenix police say she pointed a shotgun at officers. But there's a lot more going on here that you can't see. ABC 15's Nicole Valdez digging deeper into the challenge mental health issues play as officers respond to calls.
It started with a phone call to a crisis hotline.
He's reporting that his girlfriend has a gun.
22-year-old Hannah Kitan inside an Awatuki apartment having a breakdown, according to her roommate.
She has a lot of mental issues she's dealing with.
Our officers will go into a situation like this hoping to talk to this person, hoping to have a dialogue, and hoping to get them the resources that they need.
Your friend told us you're kind of having a rough day, John. Yeah, he called because he's concerned about you.
Phoenix police say their officers are trained to be sensitive in these situations and take their time. Over the years, though, critics have questioned whether that always happens.
Anna, you still with us?
When that situation changes, the officers have to deal with what they see in front of them at that moment.
What's in your hand? Drop what's in your hand. She's got a shotgun.
This is a critical moment. One officer, initially holding a stun bag rifle, switches to a gun instead.
Drop the gun or we will shoot you!
Even though moments earlier they were told
She has no ammo, just a shotgun.
Can we guarantee that that weapon wasn't loaded? We can't. So at the end of the day, the officers have to react to what they see.
Drop the gun!
One officer later telling department investigators,
I was afraid, yeah. Thought I was gonna die today. We're gonna apply a tourniquet here.
The 22-year-old shot in the arm. Officers quickly tried to stop the bleeding. She survived, later booked for aggravated assault on an officer. So was this a success story overall?
When officers arrive on scene, if they can understand that that person's going through a mental crisis and not doing so to be harmful or to hurt somebody, and if we can get them the help, and if that's the best resolution that day, then I think that's a win for everybody.
Nicole Valdez, ABC 15, Arizona.
That breaking news at 11. The man linked to the deadly shooting at a Portland protest has reportedly been shot and killed by police. Thanks for joining us. Details are still coming out tonight about how this all went down. Let's get right to KGW's Mike Benner. He's live in downtown Portland with the latest. Mike, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Laurel, good evening. We're at Southwest 3rd and Alder. This is where Aaron Danielson was shot and killed over the weekend. Many news outlets identified Michael Reinell as the shooter, and we're learning tonight Reinell is now dead. According to the New York Times, Reinell died during an encounter with police in Lacey, Washington. That is 2 hours north of Portland, about an hour southwest of Seattle. The New York Times is reporting that earlier today, Portland police issued an arrest warrant for Reinell. The Federal Fugitive Task Force tracked him down to an apartment. Reinell came outside, and according to the Olympian newspaper, there was an exchange of gunfire. Listen to this. Witnesses recall hearing 40 to 50 shots. Reinell was ultimately killed. Again, this is all connected to a deadly shooting in Portland over the weekend. Tensions were running high as a pro-Trump caravan rolled through the downtown core. As things were wrapping up, Aaron Danielson, a supporter of the right-wing group Patriot Prayer, was gunned down near Southwest 3rd and Alder. Reinell, believed to be part of the Black Lives Matter movement, was reportedly under investigation for the shooting. In an exclusive interview with Vice News, Reinell admitted to shooting Danielson, but he says it was in self-defense. Listen.
I had no choice. I mean, I had a choice. I could have sat there and watched them kill a friend of mine of color, but I wasn't going to do that.
All right, it's important to point out that Reinell, in that interview, did not mention what made him feel like his life was in danger. As far as what happened up in Washington tonight, we should learn a lot more in the coming hours, so be sure to tune in to KGW News at sunrise tomorrow morning, as well as KGW.com. Laurel?
Certainly a stunning turn of events. And Mike, we do have more right now. As you heard Mike say, this arrest was made near Lacey, Washington. Ted Land with our sister station in Seattle was just briefed by authorities and has the latest from there.
Here's what we know in Thurston County tonight. A law enforcement apprehension team made up of various agencies was on this scene at an apartment complex here just outside Lacey all afternoon doing surveillance on a suspect who was wanted for homicide. The authorities here describe him as a male in his 40s. They were watching him, and they say that at one point that suspect exited one of these apartments, walked out to a vehicle, and they believe he was armed. They say he had some kind of confrontation with the officers on scene, and 4 members of this apprehension team fired on that man and killed him. The Thurston County Sheriff's Office, which is the lead investigative agency on this officer-involved shooting tonight, is not identifying the person who was killed here on scene, just saying he was a male in his 40s wanted for homicide. However, multiple national media outlets are reporting that suspect is Michael Reinell, the man reportedly being investigated in the shooting death of a Trump supporter during a protest in Portland on Saturday. This is still a very active scene here tonight with multiple law enforcement agencies on scene, including federal agents who are now interviewing all of the people in this apartment complex, trying to figure out what happened in those chaotic seconds and moments when they say a man left one of these apartments, walked out to a car, and there was some kind of confrontation with officers, which ended in them shooting and killing that suspect. That's the latest here in Thurston County, Washington. Ted Land, KGW News.